So today we want to talk about how we can use adaptive card extensions with SPFX in order to collect input data through forms and to act against those data with custom actions. So briefly, let me explain you the idea, and then we will move to the demo side. So in any quick view in the adaptive card extensions, we can use the adaptive card syntax. And in there, we have controls and components that we can use to collect input data like text field, data fields, and stuff like that. And I will show you shortly what they are. And by defining such kind of components in the UI of your adaptive cards, you can create real forms, including data validation, feedback about the validation result and stuff like that. And you can easily collect data with a unified user experience, which is based on the adaptive card syntax. Then you can also configure actions, which can be buttons to submit your data, or other actions which will make your cards more interactive from an end user point of view. Whenever there will be an action triggered inside a card, you can easily, in the code base of your adaptive card extension, create an onAction method which will intercept the action submitted by the user. And in there, you will be able to use your code and to work with your state, your properties, and invoke a backend API and stuff like that. So that said, let me show you a couple of really simple examples, which I defined just for the sake of explaining you the topics. So these are not real components, but these are just components that I created for the sake of explaining you how it works. So this is a very first and simple one where I can create and show you a quick view in an adaptive card extension through which I can collect, for example, the selection of a menu in a company food court, just to make an example. And let me just pick the meat and an apple pie and, I don't know, a beer, because I like drinking beers. And when you book your lunch, you can get the action of booking the lunch, and you can collect the information provided by the user. How can you create such a solution with adaptive card extensions? Of course, you will have to create an ACE with SPFX. We have already seen in these bi-weekly calls multiple times how you can do that. So you use the Yeoman generator for SharePoint framework, and you inherit from base adaptive card extension. And in this ACE, I defined a couple of quick views. The very first one is the choose menu quick view, which will rely on the fact that in my adaptive card extension in the state, I define the main course, the dessert, and the beverages that I want to select. And in the choose menu quick view, I will simply rely on the JSON of the adaptive card. So I defined a column set in my JSON definition, where I have a column where I provide the title of the card, then I have a description, and then I start collecting all of the choices from my user. So I can rely on the input.something components that we have in the adaptive card syntax. And here I'm using the choice set. I will call main course this specific choice. It will be with a specific rendering style, single selection, and so on and so forth. And then I can provide the choices, which will be the actual options that I will provide to my user. I did the same for all of the other choices. Keep an eye on the ID of these items. So I have a choice set for the dessert, and I have a choice set for the beverages. Once I've done that, in a dedicated section called actions, I can create and define an action.submit kind of control, which will have a title, which will be the text showed in the UI. And I can then collect on the submission of this button, the data from the UI. Mainly, I'm creating a JSON object here, and I'm collecting the value of all of the fields that I've showed you before inside the structure of my data object, so that when I will click on the submit button, the onAction event for the submit action will set the state of my adaptive card extension component to the choices made by the user. And then I can move to another quick view, which will simply recap the options. Just one more thing, because I want to show you what you can do using adaptive card extensions. Here there is a much more complex scenario of a form which can show items in read-only, or by clicking on an icon, you can enable the edit form. You can play with it. You can collect input data and do whatever you like using a really nice UI based on the adaptive card syntax. And in order to do that with ACEs, it is really easy and simple. Again, using the JSON syntax of the Adaptive Card extension, we have plenty of options. And let me very briefly show you what I mean. First of all, if you think about the UI, we have the button to edit or to save or cancel the editing. Well, here we have an image, which is the edit button. And here I say that the action for this button is toggle visibility. By clicking on this button, all of these components with these IDs will change their visibility status. So if they are visible, they will become hidden, and the other way around. So for example, I play with the edit button and I hide myself, and I will show the save and the cancel button. And when I will click on save, I will submit. You see, I have another action here. And the same happens for the cancel, which will simply revert the status of the form. Then I have a column set. I have one column through which I define the read-only version of my data, which is not really interesting. I simply have the data binding right here. And then I have another column right here, which is the edit form, and which is the one I'm showing or hiding based on the toggle visibility selection control. And here I have all of the input fields. So I can have a simple input text or a multi-line. I can have a phone field, which will collect the phone number based on a regex and even providing a hint in the UI to the user. I can do the same for a URL with another regex, or for an email field. I can collect numbers, dates and times, as well as I can provide a toggle button or a choice set, as we saw before. And then whenever the user will click on the action to submit data, again, as before, in the onAction event, we can collect data and store the result in our state, and then eventually in a backend service. This is just to give you an idea of what you can do and how powerful is the Adaptive Card extension syntax. Let me just give you a couple of links in case you want to dig into this topic. And I think that's it for me. So back to you, Patrick.
Fantastic stuff, Paolo. Thank you.